All right, my secondary math 2 class, welcome back to notes. So we are going to be continuing talking about quadratics in standard form. Today we're going to practice more on finding their vertex, okay? And if you remember, the vertex of that U shape, that parabola is what we call it when we graph it, is either the very top or the bottom of it, okay? So in fact, let's draw that little picture. Okay, so the vertex, if we come over here, okay, when we graph a parabola or a quadratic, it usually looks like a U. Okay, the vertex is either the very bottom, which we call a minimum, or it's the very top, which we call a maximum. Okay, so the vertex is either the very bottom or very top, either being the minimum or the maximum. Okay. So in order to find the vertex, there are a few formulas we need to write down. Okay, exact same thing from last time. So we're going to write down this formula again. So for finding the x part of the vertex, so just the x equals negative b over 2 times a. Okay, so our first step is to just find the vertex, find the x part of the vertex. So use that formula to find the x part of vertex. Okay, so you're going to want to memorize this baby formula. Our second step is going to be to plug x into quadratic to solve for y. Okay? So once we've found that x using our mini formula, we can plug it into our quadratic to solve for y. Okay, and our very last step is we will have our vertex, which is a coordinate point, which is parentheses x, comma, y. Found our x using our baby formula. We found our y by plugging x into the quadratic. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and practice that. So let's look at number 2. Numbers 2, 3, and 4. Notice we're not graphing them, we're just trying to find the vertex. So find the vertex, that's all we're doing. Okay, so in order to find the vertex, we need a and b, right, to plug into this baby formula. Okay, so we know that in a standard form, it's labeled A, B, C, where our A for this one is 1, our B is 6, and our C is 8. But really, we don't need the C. But it's good to know. Okay, so now that we know A, B, and C, we can plug it into our baby formula, which is x is equal to negative b over 2 times a. Okay, well, if b goes on top, what is my b? What do I need to plug in for that b spot? 6. Okay, 2 times a is 1. Beautiful. Okay, so negative 6, that just becomes a negative 6 on top, over 2 times 1, which is just 2. Very last step, what is negative 6 divided by 2? That's going to give us our final answer. Okay, we have negative 3. And I really wish I hadn't have written so big because we need space to find our y now. Okay, so for our vertex, we'll write it small up here. This will be our answer. Vertex. Okay, we just found the x part of it. The x part of it is negative 3. Okay, so that was step 1, finding the x. Now we need to do step 2, plug it into the quadratic to solve for y. Okay, so we're plugging everywhere we see an x. In here, we're going to plug in negative 3. Okay, so now we have y equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay, and everywhere I have that x space, I'm going to plug in negative 3. Okay, so what is negative 3 squared? What's negative 3 times negative 3? We're going to get positive 9. What's positive 6 times negative 3? It's going to give me negative 18. And plus 8, sorry I have to write so small, Shouldn't have written that so big. Okay, then in our calculator, if you want to do that, or you can do it in your head, doesn't matter. Okay, we can do, turn on. Okay, here we go. We got 9 minus 18 plus 8, and that gives me negative 1. Okay, so we got negative 1 for our y. So our vertex, or the answer, what we were trying to find is negative 3, comma, negative 1. Okay, so let's go to number 3. So let's identify A, B, and C. This one's a little tricky. What is my A? It's going to be 1. What's my B? Negative 2. But what's my C? My C is 0. But remember, we don't really need C, so that's fine. Okay, so let's plug it into our baby formula first. So we have x is equal to negative b over 2 times a. Okay, so what do I need to plug in for b on top? Negative 2. 2 times 1, because my a is 1. Now let's solve. What happens when I have this double negative on top? Turns into a positive, so positive 2. 2 times 1 is 2. What is 2 divided by 2? Just 1. Okay, so we'll write our vertex over here for this one. So our vertex, we found the x part. Okay, so the x part is 1. Okay, so now we're going to plug 1 into this original quadratic in order to find y. Okay, so I have now y equals x squared minus 2 times x. Okay, and everywhere I have that x, I'm going to plug in a 1. Okay, so what is 1 squared? Let's figure out this part first. 1 times 1, it's just going to give me 1. Okay, what is negative 2 times 1? Negative 2. Okay, what is 1 minus 2? And negative 1. So we found that our y part of our vertex is negative 1. Okay, so our final answer, our vertex is 1, comma, negative 1. Beautiful. Okay, let's do one more of these. Okay, so we have standard form, so I need A, B, and C for this guy. So what is my A? My A is 1. My B is 6. And my C is also 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug it into our mini formula. So we have x is equal to negative b over 2 times a. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in what we need to. So negative b on top. B is going to be 6. 2 times a. A is 1. So let's go ahead and solve this. We have negative 6 on top. 2 times 1 is just 2. What is negative 6 divided by 2? Negative 3. Okay, so for this vertex, our x part is negative 3. Okay, now we're going to use the x to plug it in everywhere we see an x to find our y. Okay, so we're going to copy this down. I have y equals x squared plus 6 times x plus 6. Okay, so everywhere I see that x, I'm going to plug in negative 3. So negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 6. Okay, now we can go ahead and just solve it. Negative 3 squared, negative 3 times negative 3 is going to give me a positive 9. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. And plus 6 we can go ahead and put this into our calculator. Okay, so I'm going to do 9 minus 18 plus 6. That gives me negative 3. So we found that the y is also negative 3, meaning our vertex is parentheses negative 3, comma, negative 3. Awesome. Okay, for numbers 5 and 6, our last examples, we're going to do the exact same thing, but then we're just going to graph it. Easy peasy. Okay, so we need to identify let me zoom out just a little bit. So we need to identify A, B, and C, so we can plug it into our mini formula. Okay, so I have x is equal to negative b over 2 times a. Okay, and we'll figure out what that is. So b goes on top. What do I need to plug in for my b? Negative 8. 2 times 1. Okay, so I get a double negative on top. That's going to turn into a positive 8. Over 2, what is 8 divided by 2? I get just 4. Okay, so for our vertex, we know that the x part of our vertex is 4. Okay, now we're going to use that to solve for y. So now let's copy down our quadratic. Y equals x squared minus 8 times x plus 18. Okay, and everywhere I see that space, that x, we're going to plug in that 4 because we found that x equals 4. Okay, so 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. And plus 18, we can put this into our calculator and see what we get. Okay, so 16 minus 32 plus 18 is going to give me positive 2. So we know that the y vertex, or the y part of our vertex, is positive 2. Okay, so now let's go ahead and graph that. Okay, so you find 4 first, 4 on our x, and then go up to 2, right there. Okay, and remember the little trick, up 1 over 1, up 3 over 1. And mirror it on the other side, up 1 over 1, 1, 2, 3, over 1. Connect it with your parabola, or your u, arrows at the end, and there we go. Okay, this vertex, since it's at the very bottom, is a minimum. Okay, awesome job. Let's do number 6, our last example. So I got A, B, and technically, since we don't have a C, our C is 0, but yeah, we don't really need it. Okay, so let's go ahead and use our mini formula first. So we have x is equal to negative b over 2 times a. Okay, let's plug in what we know. On top we need our b. So my b is negative 4. 2 times 1. Okay, so I get a double negative on top. That turns to a positive 4. Over 2 times 1 is just 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so we know in our vertex the x part is 2. Okay. Awesome. Now we're going to use that to solve for y. So I have y equals x squared minus 4 times x. Okay, and everywhere I have that x space, we're going to plug in 2 because we know that x equals 2. Okay, so 2 and 2. So now we can solve. I get 2 squared. So what's 2 times 2? It's going to give me 4. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. What is 4 minus 8? It's going to give me negative 4. Okay, so we found the y part is negative 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph it. So find 2 on your x-axis first, so that's right there. 2, go down to -4, all the way down here. Okay, and even though they're counting up by halves, you see right here, we're still going to go up a whole 1, over 1, up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Same thing on the other side, up 1, over 1, 1, 2, 3, over 1. Okay, connect those with your U parabola, and you are done. Okay, this vertex, since it's at the very bottom, is a minimum. Okay, great job. You guys have an assignment that goes with these notes.